Residential is not going to make you rich. The gap in the market is not for the $50 driveways. It's for the $30,000 hospital. If you have one unit, you don't have a business, you have a job. The franchise owners who really excel, they own multiple units and multiple brands. We live in the golden age for content, story building, personal brand, but everyone will tell you it's not a good idea. Not only do you have to do something you're uncomfortable doing, you also have to do it despite everyone telling you that you shouldn't. The reason you're not making enough money is because you're not advertising enough. More people need to know about you. There's so many things to write about or create content about. It really is just your authentic experience. We launched our first owner 24 months ago. So we're basically 2 years into this. But I knew for me, I was never going to be the guy to get it from 300 units to 600 units. It's not my skill set. I really like sales, marketing, higher level, more public facing stuff. And really when you have 100 units open and we need to get 200 more open over the course of the next 18 to 24 months, that just requires a different skill set. So I started recruiting for this role back in October of last year, the CEO role. And we recently hired Tom Gisler, who previously worked for brands like Pure Clean, Serve Pro. He was also the president of Restoration One. And in 3 years, he grew that from 100 million in system-wide sales to over 200 million in system-wide sales. And 9 million per month of that was national accounts. And anyone who's been following me for a while, our plan has always been national accounts. It's the natural progression of where we're going because we're the first coast-to-coast power washing company. We're really the only one that has presence in the amount of states we have. So national accounts are an obvious and easy next step for us.
You define national accounts? What does that mean?
We're majority commercial power washing. When people think of power washing, they think of your high school kid that's doing driveways and working 3 months out of the year. We have big trucks. We can go do a 3,000 square foot house in 20 minutes because our trucks are truly built for large commercial buildings. Parking garages, QSRs, restaurants, government buildings, water towers. We've done it all. You probably saw in the last year, we did the top of the Superdome. So the types of jobs we're doing are significantly different than what your average power washer are doing. These jobs are tens of thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. So not only are we prepared in terms of the coverage we have nationwide for national accounts, but we're also prepared because of the comprehensiveness of the commercial work we're able to do. We've won our franchisees major contracts with Fortune 500 brands that have thousands of chains across the country. We've done work and won jobs for our franchise owners that are shopping centers with major property management companies. We're currently working on a contract with some big box retailers. So we're able to provide that at the franchisor level. So franchisees can buy in. Obviously, the expectation is they go grow their business in their local market. But as they do that, they get the leg up of us growing on a national scale. So we've been able to deliver contracts that are between 2 to 5 years long that in some cases cover either all or a significant portion of their overhead. So it's just been really cool to be able to provide that.
It's kind of the next level is where, so and as Mr. Chairman of the board here, part of your job is helping to lock down these, I'm guessing, $500,000 to multi-million-dollar contracts. Well, yeah, if you're doing 2 to 5 years, yeah, I'm guessing they're pretty significant.
Yeah.
But it's where, so I guess corporate is handling the national account selling, right? And you know that let's say this brand brings you guys on, they have, I don't know, 100 locations across the country, and you've got a franchisor or franchisee in all or most of these locations, you're going to win that contract. And I guess, help us understand. So Rolling Suds, and I guess for those who don't have details, like if you go to a commercial location, obviously we can't disclose who you do, but let's just say it's Home Depot. They've got hundreds of locations across the country, maybe thousands, I don't know. But what do they need Rolling Suds for? Are you cleaning the facade? Are you doing their parking lot? What all do you do?
Everything. So the exterior cleanliness of a building is generally maintained through water pressure, a combination of water pressure, as well as a mixture of soaps and chemicals that removes any kind of mildew, buildup, or organisms, mold that inevitably happens as like weather just happens, right? So like this is a necessary service. Residential, we still do residential. It's 30 to 40% of our business, but that's more of like a I want my house cleaned now and I'm going to pay for it. Right. Whereas like with a lot of the commercial work that we do, it's in their budget. And so it's either going to happen this year or next year, wherever it fits in the budget, but it's going to happen. Because if you have, let's use that example of a Home Depot. Like if you have a Home Depot that's producing $60 million a year in revenue and it looks like trash on the outside, like that leaves a lasting impression in their customers' minds. And they might go to Lowe's or they might go to a different Home Depot. And so we basically become this essential service. But when we bid on these jobs, there's no one bidding against us nationally. So we just started doing this, with a team that we built 6-7 months ago, and we have generated millions of dollars in business for our nationwide network. And most all that is contracted. And so when you think about the value of a franchise, like you mentioned 1-800-GOT-JUNK, like this is exactly what 1-800-GOT-JUNK did. There was no players in the space. They came down. They had a good junk. Brien Gearin had a good junk business from like Canada. Came down, knew nothing about franchising, but knew that he had a good business. Started selling units in California, or excuse me, in the U.S. Didn't have really any systems in place, from what I understand, by talking to franchise owners for the first like 5 years of operation. Whereas I'm coming with a lot more experience in franchising, so it's a little bit different. I think we've got a faster trajectory as a result, but regardless, they were first to market. So then they got enough presence nationally that they went and got national accounts and there was no one bidding against them. And they built, I think it's like close to 700 million in system-wide sales now, in 20 years.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And you're taking that model, you're applying it to cleaning exteriors with Rolling Suds.
Yep.
So you mentioned how you're bidding against nobody. So when your team is approaching executives at a large brand like Home Depot, it's easy for you guys to go in and say, look, I don't know how your stores are handling this now. Maybe you've got, Timmy and Jimmy with the power washer trying to clean up the Home Depot every other month, but it's not working for you. Here's what we have at Rolling Suds. Here's what we can do. And here's what this looks like. And it sounds like they're just like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Is that kind of how that operates?
Yeah. So they're generally thinking, especially with these big companies, they're generally thinking, do I pay Rolling Suds to do this? Or do we do it in-house? And when you actually don't have the equipment that we have, it takes a significantly longer time to actually power wash relative to what we can do. And we can hit 5 stories from the ground, which is very appealing to a lot of commercial customers. And we have 2 guys per truck. So like we're just moving faster. And in commercial, like it is time there that we're not getting in the way of their daily operations as a business. So the faster we can get in and get out, the more value we bring to those customers. So generally they're saying, well, if we did this in-house, it would cost X. If we hired Rolling Suds to do this nationally, it would cost Y. And then they also may be getting like local bids in some cases, but then they're dealing with like, let's say they're in 25 states and they've got local bids going out. Like now they've got a bunch of points of contact. And so they got to weigh how much that's going to cost in infrastructure to deal with all those different collections and all the things like that. Whereas like we just do it all internally. So there's a lot of upside and efficiency and scalability for these commercial jobs. And what we saw when we first launched this business is I thought we were going to be like 80% residential, 20% commercial. In my defense, that's how the founding location was for like 27 years of their business, right? In some markets when we launched, like the first franchise owner was 90% commercial and 10% residential. And he's only gotten up to like 2025 in the last couple of years. You know what I mean? Like, so the demand on the commercial side is where the gap in the market is. And no one's really filling it like anywhere close to what we're doing.
Yeah, no one's outfitted in the way that you are, and no one's gone and raised the capital that you have to be able to fulfill these types of accounts, right? So
Right.
that you're a category of one, which is, the dream scenario. So with these national accounts, do you have like have you ran into a scenario where let's say they have 200 locations across the country and maybe 30 of them you don't have a franchisee
Yeah,
in that
good
city or
question.
that location? Does that create new opportunity for, hey, let's go get a franchisee in
Yeah.
Bozeman, Montana, because there's this location here that's about to sign up for a $300,000 contract?
Yeah. So like I'll give you a perfect example. We we're really big in Florida. Like the franchise owners that launch in Florida have like a really quick ramp. Florida is just like the busiest state for power washing there is. So
Yeah.
we've launched a lot of franchise owners, a lot of territories in Florida. We signed up a franchise owner in South uh, East Florida, and the day he signed up, and we announced it internally on our Teams channel, the director of my national accounts, who's also my business partner, was like, "Hey, have him call me. I need him to bid on 18 QSRs in his territory. I know he's not going to be able to know what to bid. Don't worry, I'll handle it, but have him call me now." The day he signed and paid us,
Wow.
we called him with that. So what we're seeing now is we're actually going to build a GC company that is a subset of Suds, like same ownership and all that. But
GC, like general contracting?
yeah, so we'll be
Okay.
able to basically run jobs in other states, either ourselves or other franchise owners going there. And then basically everything will flow through that. We'll do the billing through that. We'll pay the franchise owners through that. And so it'll be this kind of whole engine. And like what we've been really good at since we launched is creating kind of like this local commercial lead generation engine for the franchise owners. Like we turn that on 5 weeks prior to going to training. Franchise owners are out selling for a full 40 hours a week for 4 weeks prior to going to training. Like they can't go to training unless they do that. We turn leads on. We have them go out and network in their communities. But now we can do the same thing on a national level. So we've done that locally with the vendors that we work with and stuff like that. And now we can do it nationally. And so basically there's like this kind of drip flow of jobs on the commercial side that becomes really efficient.
And so, is this by design with any franchisees or especially new ones where they're targeting majority commercial work as opposed to residential? Or when you say the franchisee, they start on day one and they're out there selling, are they going door to door residential or are they going door to door
Commercial.
commercial?
So
Okay.
the way it works is we've found commercial is the gap in the market. Because if you think about
Right.
going back to like what I said at the beginning, if you think about your average pressure washer, it is a one-man show that has one truck that is doing the jobs himself, right? Like that's
Hmm.
probably 90% of the industry, like if I had to guess. So that guy is not bidding on the US, like the metro system in DC, for example. You know what I mean? Like that's not,
Hmm.
he's not built for that. Like he's doing
Right.
$99 driveways or $50 driveways. Like, and that's fine. That's a great business. He's like probably making really good money by himself, but that's not a business that has enterprise value that can sell. Like you have to invest lots of money, hire people, and build like an engine like that has enterprise value that you can sell. Like that's what franchise owners are doing with us. So the gap in the market is not for the $50 driveways. It's for the $30,000 hospital that isn't being
Hmm.
serviced, or at least not professionally if it has been. So when we turn on leads for commercial, like that is what they're going and following up on is those leads. And then also going to like HOAs and property management companies and finding franchisees for QSRs and like doing all of that, which we give them systems for all that. But like that's what they're doing in those 4 to 5 weeks before they launch. And then we turn residential leads on about a week before going to training because you don't want to book that out too far and like whatever. But commercial, you might give a bid and 18 months later it comes to fruition. Again, it depends on where it falls on those budgets. So yes, the majority of our business, 60 to 70%, is commercial.
Wow. Okay. So what's the average the annual top line for a franchisee that's doing 80/20 commercial? They're ramped up. I don't know how long you ramp up to call it 2 years. Maybe it's less, maybe it's more. What's their average top line look like?
Yeah, so it's over 400 grand in their first calendar year. And that's
Wow.
based on the current FDD. And just for those who are listening, depending on when they listen, this is July 8th of 2025. We file a franchise disclosure document every April of every year. And then that shows the financial performance of franchise owners that have operated for 12 months, are within compliance, and have reported all their data accurately. So this is based on 5 different franchise groups that were all operational for 12 months. So these are our first franchise owners that are coming into a system that's still being built at that time. I mean, the training from 2023 to now that we have it's not even recognizable. Like, it's completely different. You know what I mean? So it just shows the strength of the model. But yeah, I mean, it's like $419,000 in top line.
Wow.
We don't put bottom line primarily because everyone runs their business differently. You might run this through that or whatever. And like, the thing that makes the most amount of sense is like, hey, here's the top line. Go talk as a prospective franchise owner. You're going to talk to these people anyways, because I don't let anyone move forward without talking to other franchise owners. We don't let anyone move forward. So ask them what their numbers look like, at the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, and it's, if you're a franchise owner, you're a franchisee in a certain city, what are the growth opportunities? Because I know you said there's multiple units, but then there's also multiple locations within units, and a lot of your owners, or your goal is to have your owners own multiple franchises, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's that work?
Yeah. So the minimum amount of units that we do is 2. And then our average deal is like between 3 and 4. What that means is that a franchise owner is signing up to open, let's say they buy 3 units, open 3 trucks within each one of those units over the course of a year and a half. So it's a super aggressive growth trajectory. Each truck on average, based upon our founding location, again, based on our FDD now of 2025, the average truck is doing over 400 grand in revenue, right? So if you have 3 trucks, theoretically, going into year 3, you're on a run rate of a $1.2 million business. And that's assuming you're not working in the evenings, which a lot of our owners are.
Wow.
Because some of these jobs happen in the evenings, like a QSR, like they're only closed for a period of time. Or shopping centers, like you need people to not be in the shopping centers when you're cleaning. So the reason we do a minimum of 2 territories is we don't want single unit owners. 80% of franchise owners that own franchises in the US are single territory owners. Generally speaking, and this is relatively model dependent, but generally speaking, if you have 1 unit, you don't have a business, you have a job. You have a really high paying job potentially. Whereas the franchise owners who really excel, they own multiple units. And where they really, really excel is they own multiple units and multiple brands. So then you have a diversified portfolio of assets in the franchise space. And so we're only looking for multi-unit owners who have a multi-unit mindset, meaning they are building enterprise value. They're not building a salary, which a lot of people come from a job where they had a salary. And so shifting their mindset to say, oh, I'm the last person that gets paid and I'm building an asset, and the value is what the asset is worth to someone later, not what I'm drawing from the business in year 1. So I always say, like, the franchise owner that needs to replace their $150,000 a year corporate salary after 15 years is not our franchise owner. This is a grind to build $1 million, $2 million, $3 million business, if that's what they're able to do, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have to work really hard for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's just like if you were starting your own business, you got to be able to build your team. You've got to be able to take the reins and understand what you're doing and impart that on the employees that you have that do the
Right.
production. And I imagine for some time, the owner's doing some of the production, at least learning from the ground up so that they can train and teach and bring on more people.
Right.
How many employees does it take to operate a single truck?
2.
2 employees. Okay. So let's say a franchise owner has 2 or 3 trucks. So you've got about 6 employees. And then with these commercial jobs, like how often do, let's say you have a hospital contract. How often does a hospital have to be cleaned? These are large contracts, but maybe it's a week's worth of work.
Yeah. So it
every
depends
so often?
depends on a few things. One, how well maintained is the hospital and what are their kind of standards of cleanliness? So oftentimes that has to do with like whether it's in an upper class neighborhood versus not. Unfortunately, that's just the case. And then also where in the country it's located. Different places in the country, there are different demands from a cleaning perspective. Like I mentioned, Florida. Florida, you have mildew, you have salt water in the air, you have
America's basement.
humidity. And so what happens is like where I'm at is in Nashville, Tennessee. You might clean a rental property once every 18 months, let's just say. In Florida, you might clean a rental property 3 times a year. And it may be required by the HOA to be cleaned quarterly. You know what I mean? And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, now I have a recurring revenue stream from this HOA that I'm the preferred vendor in. That's kind of how you really want to think about building a business with enterprise value, is like how much of the revenue that you create can become like guaranteed or close to it.
Yeah. And then so if it's an 80-20 model between 80 commercial, 20-ish for residential, does the residential fill in the gaps when there's, if you got X amount of commercial clients, there's still work to be done on the residential side. So I imagine that's kind of the perfect marriage, or the perfect break between commercial and residential.
What we try to teach our franchise owners, and we tell them this from the sales process to opening, is that residential is not going to make you rich. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, however, it keeps your guys busy. You get paid immediately, like when you're done. So the guys get the reps in, you get paid immediately, which flattens out the revenue of the business. Because if you're doing like the hospital, like you're going to do the work, then you're going to wait 45 to 90 days to get paid.
Net 90. Oof.
So in some cases, I mean, it just depends.
Yeah.
Like once you're already a vendor with them, it might be 30 to 45, but you're a brand new vendor. Like you're getting to the bottom of the stack. And I mean, our average pay time on a commercial is about 45 days. So like it does end up being about that. But like if you're doing residential for 40% of your business, like you're covering a lot of your expenses, right? And you're keeping your guys busy and you're getting paid immediately. And so like some of our franchise owners, like a lot of the reason they buy into Rolling Suds is like, hey, I can go do the Superdome, which is great. But like without the residential, like you really don't have as great of a business. And you also run the risk of key customer concentration risk. If you just have like 4 accounts that bring you whatever in revenue per year, you lose one of those accounts and all of a sudden you're not as profitable. So like we try to kind of coach them through that. The most successful franchisees we see are about 40% residential and 60% commercial.
Okay. So more 60-40. All right. Well, now is going to be my question, is if the gap in the market is in commercial, how do you, or why, I guess, why not do more commercial? But you already answered that, where you run into that problem where if you've got 4 major accounts and maybe they're paying $2 million a year, you lose one, you're hurting.
Your business goes under. And also, again, we try to help our franchise owners understand enterprise value. If you have 4 customers that pay you $2 million a year, and one of them decides, hey, I'm actually going to go with this like local guy because he's going to cut my costs in half and he's going to lose money to win the job. And like, sorry, it's business.
Yeah.
But if you have residential, like if you're doing a lot of residential, you're getting these small jobs, but they're being peppered in over time. And like when you do someone's house, like, and you provide a good experience to them, maybe they call you a year later, maybe it's 18 months later. But like, if you stack enough of those wins on top of each other, 3 years from now, like you have these like, little jobs, $1,500 days, $1,800 days, $1,200 days that ultimately end up creating more value for your business. So even if the margins are smaller because you're not doing a $30,000 hospital, like it doesn't matter because your business is more valuable.
Yeah. No, it's just smart business, right? It's covering all your bases and being diversified in just your clientele so that you know that if you lose something big, you've got the gap is filled in some manner, right?
Correct.
I love that. So I started out by saying that we were going to be talking about, growing your business from content, personal branding, and storytelling. So I want to make good on that promise, but I'm glad we went down that rabbit hole, man, because that is such valuable information for anybody in franchising, considering franchising or business in general, like, man, you're bringing the noise here. So,
Thanks.
but I do want to touch on leveraging a personal brand,
Sure.
using storytelling. And from my
Sure.
understanding is in 2024, over 40% of Rolling Suds franchise sales came from your content-driven marketing strategy. So I do want to touch on that because I think that can play a part in whether you're a teeny tiny business, just starting one, all the way up to, $1 million franchisee. So let's talk about that a little bit. What
Sure.
was it that you did from going from no audience to being able to drive almost half of your franchising sales through content-driven marketing? I want to let you take the mic on that one.
Yeah. So I actually I have a lot to say on this. So I'm going to try to sum it up. We live and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So this is for your audience. We live in like the golden age for content, story building, personal brand. It's never been like this. And where people spend the majority of their time, for better or for worse, is on their phones. And so what everyone should be trying to do is that owns a business is to get as many people who are on their phones to know about them and what they do as possible, even if they don't want to. I had to get over that. Like the first 10 months, I was like, I don't want to write about myself and be self-aggrandizing. Like, I don't want to, people are going to think I'm egotistical. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be fake. Like every excuse that you can think of that someone would have to not build a personal brand, I had. And then I was like, how would I be able to help our franchise owners differently if I had an audience versus not? And the compounding effects of building an audience in terms of attracting better talent for the corporate team, finding better franchisees who can afford more territories and want to build a bigger business, like the recognition that you would get on a national scale, depending on how big from like a customer standpoint for national accounts. Like there are so many compounding effects from building a personal brand that how I feel about whether or not I should do it is irrelevant. That's like saying, I don't want to like pay my taxes because it's too much money and I don't really want to do it. It's like, that's how you have a business. Or like, I don't really want to advertise that much because like it costs too much money. It's like, no, you have a business. Like your job is to make people understand who you are and how to sell your stuff or how to buy your stuff. So that's like one thing, just for anyone who's listening. Like if you own a business and you're not doing content marketing and specifically around you as the founder, like it's not like, oh, I'm going to go to the Rolling Suds page and like create content that like makes people pay attention. No. Like they buy into you as a business owner. Like they're watching you grow a business. And the more authentic you can be telling your story, the more customers that you'll get and the better customers you'll get as well. Like there's so many compounding benefits of it. So that's kind of one thing. The second thing is that no one will think it's a good idea. No one. In fact, when I did this, when I changed strategies from like me doing all the franchise sales myself to like, hey, I think that if I create content, we will get better candidates, and the content, the money that we save from content versus paying acquisition fees for franchise owners, like which are very high. Like it's our biggest cost. It's our biggest outgoing cost. Will pay for the sales team and allow me to hire a C-suite. That was my thesis. And it was just based on following people like Alex Ramosi or Cody Sanchez or, and just seeing what's possible. Now we're in a much tighter niche of like franchising. So like, I don't think I'll ever have a 10 million person audience. Like, but that's just a vanity metric. It's like, how do I get more of the people that are interested in franchise ownership to like go to Rolling Suds versus not? No one thought it was a good idea. Everyone thought I was just like promoting myself because of my ego. Literally, I mean, I'm not kidding. Like everyone, like my business partners, like I love them to death, but like no one thought it was a good idea. Franchise owners didn't think it was a good idea. Like no one. Like, and the reality of it is we had some very real data at the beginning of this year to show that it was a good idea. And not only was it a good idea, look at how our team's been built as a result. Look at how many great franchise owners we found. Look at these franchise owners and what they're doing in revenue that's bringing a reputation to the network. Like, ultimately, this is great. But everyone will tell you it's not a good idea. And so, like, you have to do something that you're uncomfortable doing, because no one wants to sit in front of a camera when they have no experience as an actor or like whatever. Like, it feels weird. Like, you're sitting in a room by yourself talking to a camera. So not only do you have to do something you're uncomfortable doing, you also have to do it despite everyone telling you that you shouldn't. It's really hard.
Yeah. You swim against the current.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the best founders have the most success, is swimming against the current, right?
Yeah. I knew it was a good idea, but like, I didn't have data to support it. I just was like, I think this will be a good idea.
Yeah. Well, it positions you as the authority in your space, right? Now, there's a right way and a wrong way to do the promotion, your self-promotion. But if you want people, the most people to know who you are and what you do, and even, how you're doing it, you've got to tell them, write about what you do, what you know, and your story, right? You weave those things in, and content creation gets way easier. Because so many people are sitting here thinking, oh, it's content that I've got to create. And it's like, it's not really that you're creating anything. You're just sharing. Well, you're documenting even just your day inside your business. And then you share it in a post, or you share it in an email. You start building an email list in whatever niche or business you're in, and you'll start attracting the right people to you. And when you inform people about what you know, believe it or not, they start believing you, especially if you're good at what you do.
And the other thing is like, if you're not doing it, your competitors are going to do it, and they're going to win. You know what I mean? So it's like, Hormozzi's talks about this, and I know I keep bringing him up, but like, I spent some time with him last year, and I think he's a really impressive guy. The reason that you're not making enough money is because you're not advertising enough. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
More people need to know about you. And until you're doing $1 million a year, you should spend 4 hours a day advertising, creating content, running ads, like doing warm outreach, doing cold outreach. Like, if you're spending anything less than 4 hours a day and you're not at $1 million in revenue per year, like, you're losing money.
Yeah. Well, and anymore now, I know, especially I do a lot of work in the SEO and now GEO space. There's the credibility that you build with the algorithms. And now that things are shifting towards AI mode, when you have a YouTube channel, when you are present on social media, when you are on podcasts, even if you host a podcast, not saying you have to host one, but if you're present on podcasts, if you guest on podcasts, when Google and the algorithms on search engines can see that you are displaying your authority, now your website or your business, your personal brand website, those things start ranking higher, so that,
Right.
Google's like, this is a person of authority. They know what they are doing in this given area.
Correct.
I ought to promote them more when it comes to rankings online or promoting their YouTube videos. There's a massive effect that I think people don't understand on the digital side of things, just by putting out your information. Share what's in your brain and put it out for people to consume.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point, is like, people get caught up on like, what kind of content should I create? Just like at the beginning, like, no one's listening. Just put it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, volume is better than nothing. And, we have so much AI driven content these days that really the only thing that cuts through the noise is authentic storytelling. And you do stuff every week. Look at you don't know what content to create? Look at your calendar. What did you do yesterday? Who did you talk to? Were there any interesting conversations? What happened in your business? Like, did you overcome a customer issue? What did you learn from that? Like, there's so many things to write about or create content about, but like, it really is just like your authentic experience. And generally speaking, if you're doing something cool, like, you're doing something that someone else wants to do at some point. And like, we found that with Rolling Suds, like, part of the reason, like, I don't have by any stretch of the imagination an audience similar in size to some of the people I've mentioned, but in a very specific community, which is the franchise community of emerging people emerging franchisors that want to build an emerging brand. Like, people know who I am because I share what it's like to go from 0 units to 300 in 2 years. And people are like, that's something I would like to do. Or like, a franchise owner's like, hey, I'd like to be a part of that. That seems like a really cool opportunity. And that wouldn't have happened had I not just written about stuff online.
Right. It's the fact that also putting your personality out there will attract. It's a dog whistle for the right people, right?
Yes.
When someone hears you on YouTube or sees you on LinkedIn or wherever you're present, and they start following your videos, and then they start being like, "Oh, I like what this guy is saying. I like his style. I like how he does this." Now they're personally and emotionally attracted to you in a way that allows you to bring the right people to you. And those who don't jive with your style or they're not that into it, they're driven away. And that's by design because you don't want the wrong, in your case, the wrong franchisees contacting. You don't
Right.
want somebody who's not going to mesh with Rolling Suds to
Correct.
be in your network. So it is so many amazing benefits to just documenting and sharing what you do and just getting in the habit. You mentioned just at the beginning, no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to know. And that's very true. So just build the reps to get in the habit of doing this. And over time, you slowly start building a little bit of an audience. And like you said, you might have a teeny tiny niche. There might be 100 people who follow you, but if those 100 people are prospects who could pay you a lot of money, or if there are 100 people who are all currently paying you a certain amount of money for whatever it is you do, now you're onto something. It doesn't have to be 10,000 people. It doesn't have to be 10 million people. It can just be whatever fits and makes the most sense in your niche. So I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Aaron, we're butting up against time here. I know we could keep going for a long time, but I want to thank you for joining us again, man. There was some unexpected, awesome nuggets from the beginning, and then also with our more specific on our topic with talking about personal branding and storytelling to grow your business. I want to make sure that anybody out there listening, if they want to look into Rolling Suds or they want to learn more from Aaron Harper, what's the best ways to do that?
Yeah. So if they want to learn more and just become a Rolling Suds franchisee, or at least apply to become one, see if their territory is available, it's rollingsudsfranchise.com. It's very easy. If you just want to like follow along the journey, I'm sharing stuff every day about what's going on in our business, how we're growing. You want to learn more about franchising. I put a lot out about franchise ownership. And that you could follow me on pretty much LinkedIn and Twitter are my most popular spaces. So LinkedIn, you just type in Aaron Harper Rolling Suds and it'll come up. And then X or Twitter is just Aaron Harper CEO.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Aaron, thanks again so much, man. This was a ton of fun, ton of value you brought to our audience today. And we'll have to have you back on the show. You're now a friend of the show. You've been here a couple of times. So we look
you.
forward to having you back in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brien.